Okay, I started live streaming this, and YouTube won't show the screen. I don't know. I don't really do that stuff. I'm not like stream tech guy. So we're just reading it, and I'm delaying the release of each video so that the algorithm is like decent for me. So sorry in advance if you wanted to watch all this in like one go, but it's also like a 17-page essay, so I could do a lot better having this broken up. So today we're just going over the claims and introduction. Honestly, maybe I'll cover the ADHD and trauma part. Yeah, I might as well. It's not that long. Alright. Yeah, we'll do two parts. Okay. Firstly, we're going to be covering, so let me state that I didn't know if ADHD was, I knew that there was some studies on the correlation between trauma and ADHD. I didn't research any of this before, so when I cover the claims at the end, you'll see I didn't really know. But you should know, a quick disclaimer as well, I always talk against ADHD. I talk against the biological model of psychology all the time. But I talk about against the existence of ADHD. I don't believe in it. I think it's like an archetype. But it's a whole other thing. Introduction. I frequently write against the biological perspective of psychology. Today, we will be exploring the psychodynamic cause of attention deficit disorder. Well, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or whatever, same. Attention deficit disorder is just the old name. Italian dissociative identity disorder. Let me clarify that I'm speaking about attention deficits, not attention deficit hyperactivity. The difference between the three types of ADHD is, in my belief, caused by a difference in the progenitor. Inattentive ADHD is a form of vacuity, categorized in the DSM-5 by the following traits. If 6 or more are present, a diagnosis is received. Often fails to give close attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, work, or other activities. Often has difficulty sustaining attention in tasks or play activity. Often does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. Often does not follow through on instructions and fails to finish schoolwork, chores, or duties in the workplace, not due to oppositional behavior or failure to understand instructions. Often has difficulty organizing tasks and activities. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort, such as schoolwork or homework. Often loses things necessary for tasks or activities. School assignments, toys, pencils, books, or tools. Is often easily distracted by extraneous stimuli, is often forgetful in daily activities. Complex trauma, defined in the document, is defined as the experience of multiple chronic or prolonged adverse traumatic events, most often of an interpersonal nature, sexual or physical abuse, community violence, things like that, at an early life onset. These exposures can occur within the child's caregiving system and include physical, emotional, and educational neglect and child maltreatment beginning in early childhood. Let me clarify that the document that is being discussed today covers all types of ADHD, hyperactive, inattentive, and combined, right? So there's like 3 types. It's mostly hyperactive, impulsive, inattentive, or a mix of the two. For this essay, we'll be focusing on inattentiveness. Although ADHD is commonly thought of as largely genetic, there is a significant argument to be made about environmental factors. After a thorough study of research published by the Taylor and Francis group, that's the document I'm going to be referencing this whole time, I'll say the title of it in a minute, there's reasonable evidence to draw toward how ADHD is a product of childhood environmental problems, specifically concerning family dynamics, ADHD and complex trauma. A descriptive study of hospitalized children in an urban psychiatric hospital is a study done on 79 children in an urban hospital ages 8 to 18. There was a statistically significant direct correlation found between complex trauma and those diagnosed with ADHD. Compared to non-ADHD children, 75%, children diagnosed with ADHD, 97%, experienced higher instances of attachment and environmental complex trauma events. Most of the incidents contributing to complex trauma occurred before the age of 10, particularly among the ADHD group. Most of the attachment and environmental trauma occurred only early in life. It's from page 6. Thus, we draw on the significance of trauma in the early life versus later, just to be reflected on in a later section. Specifically, the ADHD group was found to have 19.63% more children that suffered from attachment complex trauma events, with a mean of 2.5, standard deviation of 1.13, compared to their peers, with a mean of 1.68, with a standard deviation of 1.46. In addition to this, they also had higher rates of environmental complex trauma events, with a mean of 3.12 and a standard deviation of 1.28, compared to those without ADHD, with a mean of 2.29, with a standard deviation of 1.81. Interestingly enough, the ADHD group had 8% fewer victims of sexual abuse, 13% less victims of physical abuse. Sorry, I'm fine reading, and then I read aloud and I get dyslexic, and I don't understand. I just skip over some words. It's terrible. Therefore, we derive that there are 3 separate factors in deciding what typology of psychological deviance will occur following various types of trauma. These 3 predictors are the repetition of the trauma, was it acute, chronic, or complex? 2, the nature of the trauma, was it abuse or significant interfamilial problems? 3, the objective suffering caused by the trauma, was it abuse or issues with the mother? Further notes be made on the influence of a mother. A few things are made clear. Acute and chronic trauma do not correlate to ADHD significantly. Acute is short-lived trauma, such as watching someone die. Chronic, meaning without significant variation, typically pertains to abuse, kidnapping for a long time, stuff like that. The largest correlation is seen in relational issues at a young age with the primary caregiver. ADHD children experienced 1 to 4 separate incidents that disrupted their caregiving relationships, including adoption, foster care placement, maltreatment, ACS involvement. ACS is CPS, by the way, and deaths of their mothers, fathers, or caregivers. 62% of ADHD children lived in chronically stressful environments where they witnessed violence in their homes or parental substance abuse, when compared to 58% of their non-ADHD counterparts, from page 6. Whoa. The vast majority of theories on why children would develop ADHD following pitfalls within their family pertains to Fogarty's theory of mentalization. Mentalization is the ability to think about the thoughts of others. When we mentalize, we are engaged in a form of mostly preconscious, imaginative mental activity that enables us to perceive and interpret human behaviors in terms of intentional mental states, such as needs, desires, feelings, beliefs, goals, purposes, and reasons. It's from Fogarty and Patrick Bateman. No, 2008. Preconscious is the old term for subconscious, meaning that can be easily accessed but not consciously thought of. You can think of it if you try, but you don't actively think of it. An example is when you're not thinking of your address, someone asks your address, and you just spit it out, and now you're thinking of it. The reason I said the mother is she is most often the primary caregiver. There is a great discourse on the psychic impact of a single mother versus father, but the one that matters in the context of formulating the ability to mentalize is the primary caregiver, regardless of gender. An early relationship with the primary caregiver is recognized as the most influential aspect of a child's development, hence why there is a statistical significance of the events before age 10. People with ADHD lack the ability to mentalize. Mentalization is learned through early interactions with primary caregivers. Mentalization is considered to be a developmental achievement that relies on interactions and emotional relationship between the infant and caregivers. The caregiver's contingent mirroring of and response to the child's internal states facilitates the child's development of the capacity to mentalize. Deviations from this normal developmental path are hypothesized to result in severe forms of adult psychopathology. From Fogarty et al., 2002. Fogarty and colleagues theorize that an underdeveloped capacity for mentalization is characterized by unstable or inaccurate perceptions or immature modes of thinking. The theory of mentalization is focused on the understanding of an individual's affective and interpersonal functioning based on his or her reflecting ability. From page 9. Sorry. I don't mean to do that in the mic, bro. It just comes up. So, the mother's reflecting ability impacts mentalization. Furthermore, the symptoms of a primary caregiver's failing reflecting ability are synonymous with ADHD. Winnicott in 1967 described the mother's ability to contain and model extreme feeling states allows the child to start his or her to own. I'm restarting. Described the mother's ability to contain and model extreme feeling states allows the child to start to own his or her self states without overwhelming anxiety or guilt. Normal emotion regulation is accomplished when the child feels secure in knowing that when he or she is in distress, the mother will be nearby to reestablish some sort of equilibrium, according to Fogarty and Target 1998. The deficiency results from a disruption in mother-infant mirroring, from page 10. Lack of emotional regulation is typically seen in ADHD patients with bursts of anger and various other unusually intense emotions. What else involves parental trauma and has similar symptoms of lack of emotional regulation and intense emotion? Borderline personality disorder, which we're going to tie in BPD to dissociative disorders later. This whole thing, along with like substance abuse and stuff. Okay, so when a parent fails to provide the reflective experience for a child, the child often internalizes a distorted and or empty self-representation. Let me make a quick note here. When I read this, I started to think, wow, this is just like what Jung described as an anima problem, where he said, men with an anima problem frequently revolve around this, they get in this thought loop of, I am nothing, I mean nothing, these ideas of nothingness and emptiness of the self, right? This kind of distorted understanding of who you are, right? And it's very negative. Anyways, back to what I was saying. It will be hard for the child to differentiate thoughts and feelings of self and other, as there is a failure on the part of the parent to reflect the child's individuality as part of the process. In other words, a neglected or insecurely attached child does not learn to accept his own self, and as a result is completely out of touch with his own and others' experiences. Fogarty in Target 1998 states that this can lead to failures of object permanence, leading to intense separation anxiety or merger with the proximal object throughout life. These dependencies are often seen in the behaviors, thoughts, and feelings of borderline personality patients who show impulsivity, fears of abandonment, erratic moods, and so forth. It can be likened to children who are diagnosed with ADHD, as they have extreme difficulty relating to relating to others, shifting environments, erratic moods, and other similar symptoms, from page 10. Thus, further correlation is found between proper parenting and care at a young age and the development of ADHD. BPD, often the result of neglect, is characterized by similar emotional affects. As mentioned, deficient mentalization capabilities lead to a lack of object permanence. Both ADHD and BPD are heavily associated with a lack of object permanence. Hence the symptom mentioned earlier in the DSM as requirements for a diagnosis of inattentive ADHD include being forgetful of objects. Object permanence is like, oh, I don't see my car keys. What? I forgot I had car keys. That's what it means. It's like, I have this icon, right? This icon is out of sight. I put it over here. It's now out of mind. It's like extreme out of sight, out of mind, and these people have separation anxiety because I don't have a girlfriend. My girlfriend, right, hypothetically, is doing work. She's at her job. Okay? Me, having terrible object permanence, which is not that bad, will think, oh no, my girlfriend's gone. She's never coming back, bro. Like, all this stuff. It's like a disbelief that things can exist outside of your vision, I guess, almost. And yeah, that's why people with ADHD lose so many things. In the DSM, it is required that the symptoms of ADHD affect effective and interpersonal functions for diagnosis. All the above named skills, which are affect regulation, impulse control, self-monitoring, and the experience of self-agency, are all results of proper mentalization, and are deficient in children diagnosed with ADHD, yet these skills are not addressed in behavior or pharmacological therapy. Based on this theory, it can be deduced that children with ADHD have not developed the ability to manipulate or understand themselves or others within their environment, resulting in poor emotion regulation and impulsivity. So not only does attachment trauma at a young, malleable age cause the emotional aspects of ADHD along with the social function part, it also impairs your right side brain function, which I'll explain it. Shore in 2001 found that traumatic attachment characterized by abuse or neglect causes impairment in the right brain functions, from page 10. And the right brain function is heavily associated with attention span, a hallmark failure of the function of the brain in a patient with ADHD. This function is heavily impacted at an early age, seeing as neuroplasticity is significantly higher. The child cannot improve the parent's ability to mirror feelings, among other things, that are required for normal, healthy growth, and thus the brain is developed improperly, resulting in an attention deficit. Others often see ADHD children as being out of touch with reality or living in their own world, according to page 10. Therefore, we find a strong correlation between ADHD and a lack of ability to mentalize properly. Children with ADHD are found to have higher rates of relational CPTSD, compared to the general population due to the important relationships causing a deficit in mentalization, such as their mother. Therefore, we have grounds for a statistically significant theory of the causation of ADHD through maltreatment at an early age. Childhood maltreatment is hypothesized to cause a defensive inhibition of mentalization as a way of the individual to avoid considering the malicious intents of an abuser or neglecting figure. Faghani summarizes the above findings and advises that maltreatment seems to result in children's withdrawal from their eternal world. A withdrawal from the eternal world. Internal, not eternal. Internal. Attentiveness is a vacuity of running from proper thought. Now, ADHD is on the spectrum of withdrawal. There are more significant forms of this avoidance of mentalization and proper thought to be reviewed. Next section, we're doing a different video, and yeah, it's releasing in a few days. I found this stuff interesting. It's strange. I mean, like I said, I'm very against the idea of the biological model of psychology, which I've reviewed in many other videos. And so I think everything is a result of adaptation. And it's like, well, my dad was a drug addict, and now I'm a drug addict. It's like, yeah, because you have trauma, bro, of course. Like, I do think there's a higher likelihood of susceptibility to problems and stuff like that. Like, if you have a very neurotic father, then yeah, you're probably gonna be neurotic because he raised you to be like that, right? But also, it's like that wasn't really the example I was trying to give. More like, I think that people can have certain traits get passed down that cause people to be more susceptible to trauma, causing them to have similar sensations. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not great at reading, like, out loud. Like, when I'm reading alone, totally fine. When I'm reading out loud, dude, I'm, like, skipping words, combining words. Like, you don't know how much stuff I just changed while I was talking there. In conclusion, we find that neglect can destroy the mentalization process in a child. Mentalization is the ability to understand the thought processes of other people, which I would say that empathy is just having good mentalization. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. And I thought that I had this in this section. These guys that were talking about this stuff also said that therapy that teaches the person to mentalize helps reduce their ADHD. It was talking about how, like, you give them Adderall, you give them medications, it's not really going to change this stuff. Yeah, it'll help the attention deficit because you're giving them meth, but, like, it's not going to actually improve them, you know? Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. That's what Taylor Swift said. Terrible person. Terrible. There's definitely some occult stuff with her. Like, I don't know what. I don't really care to learn. But there definitely is. I mean, she just has too crazy of a fan base for there not to be. You know, she's too famous. Anyways, more stuff to come. That was only... That's page 9 out of 17, so it was actually about half. But I didn't cover my intro claims and stuff. Yeah, I tried live streaming it. It didn't work. My mic was off. The screen went black when I screen shared. So we're just not doing it. My last video really popped off, the alchemy one. So, we gotta, like, you know, stay on good quality here with the videos, which I say that, and I'm using this mic. And I didn't realize that you can't see anything because it got darker out while I was recording. So that's my bad. But yeah, more to come. After this, we're gonna start reading more Jung. I just bought The Practice of Psychotherapy, so it's gonna get good. I'm a little conflicted about Freud right now because someone was saying that, and I need to do research on this, but I would believe it because I know he's tied to some crazy bad people. Candace Owens was saying that I don't watch Candace Owens, okay? Hear me out, okay? I was going on a flight and someone sent it in a telegram, the entire video saved. And I was just like, okay, I don't have data and this is downloaded on my phone, so I'll just watch it. But anyways, she was saying that Freud was, he pretty much invented psychoanalysis so that he could gaslight raped children into believing that it didn't actually happen. So, I don't know, we'll do some research on it. We'll see. But I also know that Jung was a friend of Freud, a very good friend. Although he did not support all of his theories, so we'll see. You know, all the famous people are rapists, bro. They are. Also, the next video is also going to have a discussion of rape. So, trigger warning. This has been kind of a depressing research stint, bro. Because I've been very close to some dissociative people. It's sad to see. I'll turn on the light. It's really sad to see because they're just gone, you know? And I mean, dude, I'm like complete opposite. This is why I was like, I don't know about hyperactive, but I don't even believe I have ADHD. So it's like, you know, it's definitely, never mind. I don't really believe I have ADHD. So it's a little hard because I was talking about like, oh, it's not hyperactive. But no, hyperactive is included because damage to the right hemisphere, the brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, does cause hyperactivity, which you see in people who got traumatic brain injuries. So it's like, well, who knows? You know? But I didn't want to be included. But anyways, yeah, no, it's sad reading about this stuff with DID, especially after my extensive reading on Project Monarch. My bad, feds, don't kill me. Okay. I'm not saying it was real, guys. I'm just saying that it's very interesting and could be real. You should look at it. Yeah, but that's it. Appreciate you listening. Next video is coming out in 2 days. Should I? I don't know. It'll make a longer. It depends on when I record it and stuff. It'll come out soon, and I'm making a playlist for this so you can access them both. But I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 16, so it's like, it's bizarre. Like, that never happens to people, you know. But it's kind of problematic because then I meet people and so many of them are like, dude, you definitely have ADHD, and I'm like, stop, bro, leave me alone. Stuff, you know, like, it gets confirmed by a lot of stuff, but then I'll always deny it. Anyways, I don't mean to rant excessively. Direct correlation between failure to properly mentalize and development of ADHD. Failure to mentalize harms right hemisphere, causes attention deficit. My theory, which I discussed in the last recording, which failed, was that the brain adapts to avoid trauma. It adapts to think improperly at a young age because you have an external locus of control at that time. Right? So it's like, you can't fix the problem, so the brain just filters it so you can avoid it. But then you get into adulthood and it's like, okay, you need to be thinking properly. This is something that you'd like to have, but you can't change it. Neuroplasticity gone. You've been like this for a billion years, you know. Yeah, but when I was reading about like stuff that causes the dissociative disorders and stuff, it's just so sad to see, you know. And we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it thoroughly. But yeah, I dated 2 girls that were very like dissociative and stuff, and they both had some very bad things happen to them when they were children, which you can assume. It's tragic, bro. But they both loved to drink, which is why I made my hypothesis in the second part that you'll see. But yeah, it does suck to see. You know, it's just, what's interesting to me though is that these people get by fine in life. You know, zoning out for hours a day, dissociative amnesia, no clue what's been going on all day, and they still get a fine job, still can go to college, still can put fine grades, function normally, you know. So it's a little bit like bizarre, but it's very interesting stuff. Reading this stuff makes me want to be a psychiatrist, bro. Like, I'm like, yo, I could do this. But my theory is way too unaccepted. I don't know how I feel about the transference phenomenon, which we can talk about at some point. This book covers it. And I don't want to be in school that long. Like, I'm set to graduate college after this year, you know. Not like graduating this year, but, you know, the year after it. So, I really don't like school. Yeah, but, the one thing that I have trouble with speaking like this also is that, like, when I'm reading, I don't time my breathing normally. Like, right now, it sounds fine, the way that I'm speaking and stuff. It's like, there's a normal flow, because I'll just go, quick breath. But when I'm reading, I like exhaust all the air out of my lungs, and I'm like, it's like a 4-second pause, and it's terrible. You know, dude, I need a haircut so bad. This is way too long. I never noticed the bump in my nose until like just randomly. I don't know, it just happens. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Let me know any comments, anything that you'd like to say. I hate talking about this stuff. I do. Because I don't want to fuel this kind of thing that we have going on where people do like a trauma comparison. I've been through worse. You know, it's like rappers like I had to sell crack on my street corner. Like, don't get me wrong, bro. Like, that's some crazy stuff, but it becomes a competition of who's seen the worst stuff, and that's what happens when you start to associate trauma with yourself. Is what happens. Then you start to like pull yourself away from other people, and you think like, well, no, I'm special and stuff. You're not, bro. You're not special. I'm sorry. Literally, everyone goes through things. And I understand, like, I think it's reasonable to have like a bit of like I'm chilling. We made it through, and we're good. But I think that this like kind of comparison thing that people do is very evil and unnecessary and bizarre, you know. But yeah, like it's not to say that you shouldn't be like, damn, like that happened, and now like look at us now, right? You actually changed and you got better and stuff. Then it's very reasonable. But don't speak to people about it. Don't develop like a weird like, I've been through worse stuff, so I can justify this. You know? Like, no. I will say that if you're better than the average person, you actually made it out. Stuff that's like, okay, it's understandable to have an ego about that, but yeah, anyway, sorry, I don't want to keep ranting.